Hello, hello. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. We're back. It's a fresh week. New week, same problems. What's this track? This track is called Algorithm Boss Fight. This track is dope. Yeah, upload that. How's it going, Ryson? We're gonna let this track finish because I think it's good. I'm gonna listen to it. How's everyone doing this week? I know it just started, but I feel like you can get the tenor of a week from like Monday alone. You can tell. I think you can tell right off the bat what kind of week it's going to be. My hair is looking especially thin today. I got a haircut yesterday. I think they took a little too much off the top, you know what I mean? I don't got a lot up there. Got to hold on to it. Got to hold on to what I got. I don't know. I think I'm going to shave my head soon. Hey, Fox Shadow. Let's go. Let's boot up all the things. I'm booting up all the things. We'll switch over to screen share in a second. I don't really use this close up. This is for like if we're having like a heart-to-heart conversation, this scene, which I don't normally do. But I kind of like it. It's probably a good place to start for like the just talking intro phase. I'm not good at looking into the camera. I say looking directly into the camera. I'm usually looking down at chat, which is over here. Bro, you wish you had as much hair as me. There's really not much here. It's back there. There's a lot of false hope being given. But yeah, I get it. I get what you mean. I used to have really long hair, like big hair. It wasn't long like down, it was like big. It like went out. And then one day I cut it and I realized I would never be able to grow it back. And I was like, well, that's sad. So I haven't done it yet because I know that's going to happen to me. I know we're going to be in the same spot where I cut it, I shave my head and I'm like, well, it's over. I'm one of those guys now. I'm a baldy now. I'm ready. I'm ready. My TV dad growing up was Patrick Stewart, so if I could be half the bald-headed man that he is, I'll be pleased. I'll be pleased with myself. All right, well, enough of that. Enough about my insecurities. Let's get into my code, which isn't much better. What were we doing? What were we doing last week? I think last week we were like working through our way through getting the auto tiler tool to work, and we're getting close. We're getting close to being able to draw something. You know what they say, the first triangle's the hardest one. People found Picard sexy, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, the song's almost over. Then we can get serious. Countless people have said being bald is sexy. Going bald is not. So it's one of those things. It's like if you identify it's happening and you feel like you're past the point of no return, just go for it. Just don't occupy the in-between space. It's like Machiavelli said. The middle road is often the most perilous. Don't take the middle road. Either just shave your head Or take an international trip and get like hair plant like implants. Take a trip internationally and go get some implants. Go have some procedures done. Or just shave your head. Do one or the other. Don't languish. Don't let yourself languish. All right, I'm done talking about that. I swear. This is why my average YouTube watch is like less than 5 minutes, because people tune into the YouTube VOD and are like, oh, this seems like seems like this guy's going to be doing game dev. And then he talks about going bald for like 5 minutes at the beginning of every stream. Which is why people tune out. I presume. All right, so in our world, over here in game dev land, watch me boot this up and it immediately crashes. Yeah, okay. Input handler. Did I define it and then not instantiate it? Yeah. All right, there we go. Oh, you can't save a scene when you're in a pause. There we go. You've seen counterexamples for both shaven and unshaven bald. Some head shapes. Okay, some head shapes are better, even just slightly obscured. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. All right, so we can bounce between the layers. We can't get to the lowest layer yet, but that's just a legacy issue. That's fine. We actually only want 5 layers, so I got to figure out where we're trimming the bottom layer from. You know, we need to seriously consider opening up the limitation eventually of like allowing for ship designs that are bigger than this grid. I want to get this all working, but I want to seriously consider, like, I like the single screen, like you can see the whole ship on one screen at any time. But if this is going to be a turn-based game, I don't know if that matters, you know? Input handler is declared in the current scope. Get off my back, Mom. All right. I don't know why this is still yelling at me. Usually the real-time compiler thing is like pretty good. Should I close this and then reopen it? Oh, it had just finished yelling at me and I closed it. You think most people find programming dry and boring, sadly, but you just need your 1,000 true supporters? True, true. And honestly, I actually think people fucking love dry and boring programming videos. Like, Randy's come back to live streaming relatively recently, and his live streams are dope. They're killer. And it's just him being himself, like, unedited for like 3 hours, just working on like boring ass shit. But it's all in the delivery, right? Because Randy's like a super entertaining content creator. If I can be half that entertaining, I think I'll start holding on to people. I think when there's more to see, we'll do better. Right now, there's almost nothing to look at, so people scrub through the video and they're just like, meh. But I think once I've got more stuff I'm showing off, like once we've got little dudes running around ships and like things happening, I think it'll be way more likely that we get people. But I think a lot of people just want a co-working space, just like a kind of chill. That's what I want when I'm working. I just want to hear a voice in the background talking about stuff that's like tangentially interesting to me. Doesn't have to be programming. Sometimes I'm listening to Dave Bull, who's like a woodblock or like a woodblock printer and carver. It's just like, there's lots of good stuff like that. Like Rob, everyone loves I can't ever pronounce his name. RWX Rob, something like that. He's great. He'll just be bicycling around and streaming. You don't know this Randy? Oh, well, I'm rip. I probably just lost you to Randy right now. It's fine. Randy and I don't stream at the same time. Randy streams like late at night because I think he's in Thailand. You can make him more entertaining for sure. That felt like a criticism. No, I'm just kidding. You're not wrong. I can make it way more entertaining. I'd like to think I'm still finding my voice. I've only been streaming for a little less than a year. I'm still a streaming baby. Okay, I should start working. So there's a couple things that we identified that we need to deal with, that we need to recreate. The thing we were talking about yesterday was our block partitioning system, which partitions like spaces. It's like how you can tell whether a space is exposed to like the void, the vacuum, or if you have like compartments. So we were going to rewrite that in a system, but this is optional for the moment. We actually don't need to do this right now. So we're going to put that up, put a pin in that. What we do need to do is output the tile data, not the tile data per se, but the block data. We need to output the block data in a way that the board can consume it. That's easy. We can do that. That's just outputting block data once a frame after it's been edited. In some form, we've got to decide on the form a little bit. The thing we have to do next after that is to handle actually placing blocks, which has some fairly complicated logic in here. I know it doesn't look complicated, but it feels complicated. And then adapt, and also we need to adapt the auto tiler, because the auto tiler is going to continue running in Godot in GDScript land, because the auto tiler is a rendering concern. So we're just going to have that be here, rather than try to calculate that on the C# side and like cache it, which would cost way more memory. We might eventually do that, but I think for now, we're just going to recalculate it whenever it's necessary on the Godot side. So that we need to do. So we need to recreate the auto tiler functions. We need to move the block data over so that the auto tiler can read that data. And that should be enough for now. That should be enough to get the minimum, like you can watch the preview block floating around. I don't mean you. You meant the person can make it more entertaining. Oh, the delay is brutal. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can technically turn this down. It is possible to reduce the delay, but to do that, I need to reduce the fidelity of the stream. So we can't stream in 4K if I want reduced like YouTube, like Twitch style latency, and even then, I don't know how much better it is. And because I view YouTube as kind of like my archive, I'm hesitant to do so because we've always streamed this in 4K. Actually, that's not true. I think we might have started in 1440p. So we could drop down to 1440p and I don't think anyone would notice. Because it's still a pretty high bit rate, 1440p. So it's going to be one of those things. Because right now, everyone who's talking with me, all of my chatters today, Ryson, Fox Shadow, Scott McDonald, hey Scott. First time you managed to catch it live since the holidays. It's going good. How was your holidays? How are you doing now that we're back to work and being productive? It's going good. We're pretty happy. We're kind of in the final steps of getting back to where we were before we decided to go off on this entity component adventure. Keep the quality. Okay, good. I know. I just abruptly dropped that side of the conversation. But yeah, I agree with you. Keep the quality. But I don't know. It's weird because most of my engagement is on YouTube, and it's kind of incredible. That's kind of not the common wisdom about how live streaming is supposed to work. But I'm not going to complain. I would love it if the YouTube live notifications worked, so people who wanted to watch me live could tell that I was online. But other than that, I think it's good. You'll sort out your Twitch and chat there eventually. Oh yeah, that's the best of both worlds, right? Yeah, I'm interested to see hear what everyone's been working on. I know we're kind of just getting back in the saddle, but if anyone has any life or dev updates, I would love to hear it. I'm gonna try to actually do work. So Bear Like Lion, How's it Godot'ing? Oh, I need sound effects. I need like a wow 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 or something like a something to play or a budutch. I need to start putting some sound effects. I have a stream deck and I've never used it. I don't know why. I don't think about it. I got to start using it. So I can do little button commands. You started Bear Like Lion. You just started a new game project over the holiday break. Oh, sweet. Godot project? What do you got? What do you got in mind? Why do I still have this 3D tab available here? I thought I disabled that. I don't remember how to do it. Who cares? You're working on a 3D multiplayer CS. Wait, hold on. This that broke my brain a little bit. 3D multiplayer CS:GO surfing in Godot. CS:GO surfing. What does that mean? Because it sounds awesome. Does that mean you're like surfing and like then someone like pops you with an op as you like round as you like I don't know whatever the right surfing verb is? Ryson, you've been looking into contributing to Godot. That's awesome. That is so cool. I have not been brave enough to go down that route, but that is an incredibly noble undertaking. Uh, Ryson, you're reading the source, trying to wrap your head around the code. You encountered a bug you think would be a good first issue to address. You haven't touched C++ since C++11 was just rolling out. It is rough. I know. I should have written my ECS in C++, but I am very inexperienced at that, and I thought it would be more trouble than it's worth. But I kind of wish I did it. Scott, outside of cranking through various projects at work, you've been playing around with making a map generation tool. We love map generation tools. Mostly centered around D&D and general world building right now, but may iterate on it for part of a level editor for a game loader. That's great. That's great. There's so many resources on that. One I always like is like the Bob. Oh my God, what's his name? The gameplay programming patterns guy. Oh my God, what is his name? Bob Nystrom. He has some good stuff about generating roguelike roguelike maps. Kind of old, but probably still good. Yeah, that's always generating D&D style maps is always a fascinating undertaking. Or like Lion, you ride triangular ramps to gain momentum and make jumps to other ramps. Ooh. Can you drop a link? Yeah, sure. Please link responsibly is the channel rule, which allows for links. Ryson, you believe CSGO surfing is a game mode where people figured out a way to slide and made elaborate maps? Oh, it's kind of like a tribes style, like the way they do like their jetpack sliding kind of thing, maybe. Here are your games. Nice to meet you, Mark. I'm Dave. Bear like lion. I like that. Wow, you have a pretty healthy itch page. It's pretty great. Here we go. Surfs up. Love this. Oh, you got it all Steam integrated. Sweet. Oh, you got some like Rainbow Road kind of maps and stuff. Oh, this is cool. Oh, it's like a speed running kind of deal? Or maybe it's just measuring your speed. I assume you're still fighting other people, but maybe that's incorrect. Is it more of like a parkour thing? It looks more like a parkour thing. Oh, that's so cool. Sounds like you're really abusing the the physics of the source engine here. Very similar to tribes. Yeah, okay, that was the first thing that came to mind when someone described tribe skiing specifically. Okay, fighting against your personal best, the lobby, and world records. That's awesome. That's awesome. How is it working in Source? I haven't touched the Source engine in like a long time. 16, 17 years. I enjoyed. I did some levels. I did some stuff in the Hammer editor a long time ago. I enjoyed it. It's in Godot. Wait, how? You found an add-on called Godot GDT that ported the source movement to Godot, and you forked it to improve the surf bug. Oh, that's awesome. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Scott, you want to do something like that, but that you can customize everything and let ProcGen fill in gaps rather than full-blown generation. Oh, okay, okay. I kind of understand what you mean. You're talking about level generation for like roguelike dungeons and stuff. No, that would be cool. That's like the best version of ProcGen is when you define like interesting where the pieces are handcrafted and then some of the stitching between them is procedural. It's probably the best middle ground sort of thing. Ryson, one of the things you want to improve is the tile map tile support. You feel like it can be improved a lot. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we do our own auto tiler, and it's because the tile map system does not have a lot of support for isometric. I've also been playing around with the tile sets, and I'm kind of stuck on something a little bit. I'm figuring it out, but I'm trying to add in because right now our tile editor only knows this. It only knows the cube and how to render the three faces of the cube. And I'm trying to add in like interesting sloped shapes that have the concept. I call it the concept of direction, but it's just the idea that like some of the faces are sloped and have like normals. And I've thought a couple of ways to do it. One way is to do like to like paint it like you would like a 3D thing and have the system figure out like basically kind of almost like a normal map kind of thing. The other option is to just carve up the shapes myself and just arrange them on a sprite sheet. And I don't know what I prefer. I've started working on the sprite sheet solution because it seems like the easiest one. But it's kind of awkward because like some of these faces are different sizes than the other ones and kind of awkward. We'll see what we end up with. We don't need to do this right now, but that's kind of like the direction we're headed. So I've been kind of researching it in the background. It'd be interesting to do this, but then we'd end up writing this whole big editor system that could take 3D blocks and break them down into their 2D faces and build tile atlases out of them. And I don't know. To me, that doesn't even actually solve the core problem, which is getting the auto tiler, which is getting the faces in a shape that the auto tiler can understand. So I need to think more about that before I get too deep into it. That's not what we're working on right now. That's just kind of. Yeah, Ryson, wave function collapse is interesting. I haven't made it work, but I was definitely looking at it at one point for generation, for like different generation. Townscaper is like the best example of that, right? Okay, okay, we're gonna do stuff. It's been it's been 30 minutes, and we're cooking. We're gonna get moving. We're gonna get a move on here. Um, so we have our output object and our input object, and this is the way into and out of the system. I realize I need a buffer queue so that everything that comes in can get put in a buffer, and then it can be sorted from the buffer out into the different buckets that the systems consume. And that way we can do it once. Right now our system is purely linear or purely sequential, so it doesn't really matter. Like we hit our physics process and the main system runs, and then all systems run, and then we consume the output. So it doesn't matter right now, but I'm thinking about the future when what we do is we probably put the simulation on its own thread, and that's all we do in terms of optimization. We just get it off the main thread and onto its own thread. That's probably more than enough performance for us forever. But if we do that, we need a buffer so that we can still take in input when Godot sends it to us, and then we consume it at a predefined time. That way we're not modifying input queues while we're reading them. We're not adding to them while we're not queuing while dequeuing or whatever, and queuing while dequeuing. So we'll probably want a similar buffer on the output. But right now, since everything's linear, we're not going to think about it. So we have a views queue, and it consists of commands. And this is like feeding commands back to the Godot editor that we've acknowledged. So the editor can make some adjustments, which in our case so far is just, oops, that's the wrong scene. Oh, it doesn't matter. Which is just acknowledging these changes of layer. That's currently all we're doing, but we need to start sending the block data back each frame. Ideally only if it changes, but for now we're just send it back in full. We'll do that for now and worry about optimizing it later. But what format is this coming back in? It's going to come back. I mean, we'll queue it up. It's going to probably, you know what it probably will be is no, it can't be a span. Maybe it's a buffer ID. Maybe we just queue up buffer IDs and then we just get the buffer here. Because right now when we want to edit a block list, a list of blocks, we just get a buffer somewhere. Like here. I say confidently scrolling to where I want to go. Yeah, get read only or read write buffer. Like we just get a span of the buffer that we're working with as type T. It would be cool if we did all of the auto tiling here and then just sent a raw byte array back. That would be kind of sick. And then the tile map system would just use this byte array as its tile data. But I don't think that's what we want to do. It would be cool, but I think it'll be better to send the blocks over and then have the auto tiler run on the Godot side. But the blocks exist in this form. Block buffer? No. This is the component. Although this block buffer will probably need to know some kind of Godot node identifier so that it knows, so that the system can tell what node this buffer corresponds to. But let's worry about that later, because right now we're only talking about one node, which is the node under construction. Ryson. Are the edits to the ship going to happen while the simulation is in progress? And if so, is it going to simulate the ship crew making the changes like Dwarf Fortress, or the changes instant? No, it'll probably simulate them, and it will probably be. I mean, it'll probably occur over a turn. I mean, we'll have to figure out how turn resolution works, but it's one of those things where mechanically it's going to be instantaneous, and then there will be an animation that shows how that will like interpolate towards that state, right? Because that's usually how you do like a transactional grid system. Like if someone's moving from one point on a grid to another, you want the transition from the one point on the grid to the other to be like an atomic, like instantaneous thing. But visually, you can interpolate the change. Like you can animate the person running from one tile grid to the other. So both, I guess, is weirdly the answer. It's going to both occur instantaneously and, you know, interpolate the visual representation of it as it animates towards it, towards that new state. But yeah, edit's a strong word. We're kind of describing just changes to the block composition, the block volume composition. Like maybe a wall explodes. That qualifies as a change and is not something that you're making on edit time, at edit time. So this is what I want to look at, block. So this is what we're going to send over, these a buffer of these block structs. This will become an integer. Because that seems to be what happens. Hopefully that's readable when it's in Godot form. The face. I want a different representation of the face. The face is like the direction. Right now it's a vector 4. I kind of just want it to be an enum. So we just pay for the one byte. Or whatever, not the one byte, the one int. Whatever the default enum is in C#. I presume it's an int. And then the part, which is like, what compartment are we in? So let's not worry about this for now, because we don't really care about the size of the block for now, but that's definitely a lot bigger than it needs to be. It is easier to reason about when it's a vector 4i, but not that much easier. So we'll send this over. Right now, the block data we're operating on is just a dictionary of just the form. Yeah, so it's the ship-hull.tile blocks. That's the array that we operate on in the tile, in the auto tiler. And that is just a dictionary of, I think it's position, key. I think the key is the grid position. So the XYZ grid position is the key. And then the value is the form enum. Like, is it a bulk or a door or a deck? So that's different because that's different for us because position, the XYZ position, is inferred by its position in the grid. So we'll need to operate a little differently when we iterate through this stuff, but that's easy. We can either use a multi-dimensional series of nested ifs for loops, which is not the best, but whatever. Or we could just use one for loop that gives an index, and we can calculate the different coordinates from the index if we need to. But what we need to do first is get the data back, or send the data over, whatever you want to call it. So the easiest thing to do, yeah, we can't really just give it a span, can we? What's unfortunate is when we do transition from the C# side to the Godot side. Oh, you got to go run for a work call? No worries. Thanks for hanging out, Bear Like Lion. The unfortunate thing is we do pay a marshalling cost when we move we moved memory, managed memory into Godot. So it would be kind of cool if we could use a span instead. Just wondering how we're gonna do that. Maybe we do that. Maybe we send the buffer to the game, the buffer ID to the game script. The game script gets the span, and then somehow gets that info over to the Godot side in the most performant way possible, which we have yet to figure out what that will be, but we don't need the most performant way possible right now. We just need to do it at all at the moment. What would be cool is if we just sent over the edits. If we just sent over the things that changed, that's where we'll eventually get, probably, is where we just send the diffs over. That's certainly the most performant way to do it in terms of minimizing the amount of memory going back and forth. But for now, we're just going to move the whole thing over. I just don't know exactly how I want to do that. We'll make a queue of block, no, a block of buffer ID. I don't know. Probably block buffer is probably what we do. Because if we send the block buffer over, we get the buffer ID, we get the AABB volume information. We get the information about the size of the buffer, where it is. We get all that good stuff. That's probably what we need to. That's also what we need to just get the buffer itself. So yeah, we're going to send that over. So sure. So the edit system is not going to do this. So basically we do need a bool or something of like block changed or something like that. What do we call it on the Godot side? I had a thing tracking this and then I got rid of it because I was like, whatever. We called it tile block replaced. We could call it block changes or something. Or I like replaced because that's literally what's happening. Call it block replaced. And when we get to the bottom of this, we'll just say if block replaced. So if we've replaced a block, we need to update. We need to send over the latest information about that. What do we need to send over in terms of information? Well, right now we don't really need to send anything. But let's just, for the sake of clarity, we'll send over this. We'll say game.output.blocks. NQ. We'll send over the block buffer that we're working on. It's kind of stupid because we're only working on one. And we're storing it on the world, so we don't really need to send it over, but we'll do it for now. I'll say block replaced is false. Invert. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think this is stupid, but whatever. All right. So that should be okay. So if the blocks change at all, they're going to be the block buffer thing will be sent over into the output, and then the game will read the output. Kind of don't want to call it this. Maybe I just send the edit call over. That's not really enough because that might... No. Yeah, whatever. We'll just do this for now. I want to do it differently later, but do this for now. So we're going to say while output dot blocks dot count is greater than 0. We'll say variable, say block buffer. I don't love the name of this because this isn't actually the block buffer. This is just the block buffer component. Probably should change that. And then, so what do we do now? We've got this thing. I guess we can just do it here somehow. This is where it would be nice if we did all the auto tiling on the C# side. Like I said before, we could just push over the finished tile map layer, the tile map data, like just the raw byte array of tile map data. You could just push that whole thing over instead of pushing over this intermediate state. But I guess the intermediate state would actually is going to be probably eventually a lot less data once it's optimized. So we need to push the buffer itself over. I want to read a little bit of the documentation on going back and forth between. Let me read a little bit about the C# API. Collections is probably where we'll find this. So the main difference between the .NET collections and the Godot collections is that the .NET collections are implemented in C#, while the Godot collections are implemented in C++. And the Godot C# API is a wrapper over it. This is an important distinction since it means every operation on a Godot collection requires marshalling, which can be expensive, especially inside a loop. Yeah, I want to do this as little as possible. We almost exclusively use .NET collections in the C# throughout the lifetime of it. Like we don't do anything in using the Godot collections when we're in C# land, but we do need to. We probably need to pay this marshalling cost once at the end, and if that's the only time we pay for it, that's fine. Due to the performance implications, using Godot collections is only recommended when absolutely necessary, such as interacting with the Godot API. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. Godot only understands its own collection types, so it's required to use them when talking to the engine. Yeah, if you have a collection of elements that don't need to be passed to a Godot API, using a .NET collection would be more performant. Okay, link marshals every single element in a collection. I'm glad we followed our instincts to not use link in general. Well, that doesn't matter in general, but we definitely aren't going to use it when we're doing any kind of interop stuff. The Godot ones are good. I wonder how the transition from the, I mean, we're probably just going to go from a system.array to a Godot packed array. It's probably what we're going to do. Yeah, because we don't want to store this shit as a variant. Okay, so we can only use ones, we can only use C# arrays that have a similar packed array equivalent. So yeah, going from a byte array to a packed byte array would have been good. Oh shoot, that might be what we need to do because we can't just pass an array of these blocks. We might actually need to do the auto tiling in C# and then just send the packed byte array. This might have to be our solution because we can't just send over an array of our custom struct. Our only other option would be somehow making our struct variant compatible, if that's even an option. We could make an array. I guess we could make an array of our block, but we don't need to do that because the Godot array is a lot more like a list than an array. We don't need that. Oh yeah, Godot also uses 64-bit integers and floats invariant. Oh, here's some stuff about converting enums. This is kind of interesting, very relevant to our interest. Oh, this is horrible. So you need to explicitly, you either need to do these variant calls or explicitly convert when going back and forth. All right, I'm pretty much convinced that we're going to be doing the auto tiling in C# and then just pushing out the tile map data in packed byte arrays. That seems like that's going to be the best thing to do. The main awkwardness is just we're going to be referring to a bunch of stuff. Like when we're selecting the source ID and the atlas chords and all of that stuff, we're basically going to be referring to them and trusting that we know what we're doing, which I actually have an idea for how to fix that, which involves using the slice tool. I think we've talked about this a little bit before. The slice tool in Asprite lets me, so like I can take this and I can slice it and it creates a little piece of data which I can name or assign properties to. So I can give it a name, I can give it a color, which is like getting some free flags or something like that if I want to abuse the system. So we have a name identifier, a color identifier, and a user data space for a string. So I can just pass through a string. So since I can just pass through a string, I can put an arbitrary amount of data in here. It also just comes with information about the bounds of it, which is pretty great. So like where it starts and how big it is. So this is kind of cool. So I could say, you know, I could name this such that I could put an identifier here and be like, this is where this is. This is where you can find this thing. And then I could put something in the user data that says like, these cells are this size by this size. So when you parse this, chop it up into this, and this is what you use, or whatever. We could put kind of anything in the user data, depending on how crazy we wanted our formatter to be as far as like parsing this thing, how far we wanted to go down the rabbit hole. I considered putting JSON in this string and then parsing the JSON in the string inside the JSON, because you can export this slice properties as a JSON. So there's some cool stuff we're going to do here to get this stuff to read. Kind of sends me down the direction of maybe wanting to do it this way. Oops, still in the slice tool. As far as breaking up our 3D objects into 2D faces, I'm kind of tempted to do this texture, this 3D texture thing. But whatever. That's a not a today problem. That's a problem for another day. Okay. I need to remember to drink my water. I hope this is meeting everyone's standards for a boring programming stream, as we were discussing earlier. Okay, so we're not going to be sending a block buffer over. What we're going to be sending for now is we're going to have a queue of byte arrays, I guess. Well, we might actually continue to send over some kind of span identifier, but what we're probably going to have is an output that's like this, like tiles. And we'll probably send over tile data instead of block data. Something like this. We're not going to do it right now because I'm not sure how this is going to look. So we're going to hide that. Well, I guess we don't need to hide it. We're just not going to use it because I don't really want to send this over a byte array. Well, maybe I do. We'll have to figure that out. So forget all about this. We have a tile system. We do have a tile system. So the tile system is going to run over all this stuff. We have a hull system. The hull system is going to need to run first. So we're not going to support doors yet. We're going to basically recreate the functionality that we have here, which is in, unfortunately, it's in a number of locations because there's different behavior for different things. So like the behavior for the floor, which we refer to now as a deck, is different than the behavior for the wall, which we refer to as a bulk. So it's not a wall, it's more of just like a, here's the above block, and the deck is like, here's the below block. And it doesn't have to be a wall, it could just be like a pile of shit in the middle of a room. As long as it's, you know, part of the structure. Could be a column. I don't know. Or again, it could just be a pile. It could just be like a platform or a dais or something. So yeah, we moved away from calling it walls, but it's still called walls here. And so this thing, this auto tiler, once it has all the block data set up, once it gets its block data, it goes through and it does what I call get hull types. And getting the hull type means figuring out whether this piece of the hull, like whether this face, like this face, or like X face or Y face, it figures out, okay, are we an inner hull, a middle hull, or an outer hull? Which is basically, are we inside a compartment? Like, are we an inner wall of the ship? Are we a middle wall, which is like a wall that's like mooshed up against another wall? So it's like sealed. And then there's an outer hull, which is like, are we facing outer space? And for now, that causes different ways of being rendered. That's not always going to be true, I guess. That's only going to be true at edit time. During playtime, in play mode, that's not going to be true. Like you're not going to want to change the texturing of a wall to be an exterior face just because like you've explosively decompressed a compartment. You would change to something. You might change to like a damaged inner tile instead of a regular inner tile, but you wouldn't just change it to an outer tile. So we'll add some kind of distinction for that. You know, it's probably good that we're doing this auto tiling in C# because it's going to be faster than if we did it in GDScript. I mean, it would be even better if we did it in C++, but that ship has sailed for us. Actually, that ship, there was no ship. If I tried doing this game in C++ in Godot, I would end up like that, like the initial, for anyone who remembers the first scene from Pirates of the Caribbean, where it's just like Jack Sparrow like holding the mast of a ship and he looks incredibly heroic, and it's just like a dinghy that's like sinking into the harbor and he arrives at the harbor and the ship is sunk completely and he gets off the ship. That's what would happen to us if I had tried to do this in C++. So we're not going to do that. But yeah, so we get the hull type, which is just figuring out what is our hull type here. Then what we do is get the atlas coords. So get hull type is the equivalent of figuring out, where's the actual one of these? Here we go. So do we use this tile set, which is like the inner hull, or do we use this tile set, which is the middle hull, or do we use this tile set, which is the outer hull? So that's what we're figuring out when we're getting the hull types, is like, which tile set are we actually using? Then we need to get the atlas coords. So that's about looking at your neighbors. So you're like, do I have a neighbor to my right? Okay, then we won't render the outline to the right. Do I have a neighbor to my left? Okay, then we won't render the outline to my left. Do we have no neighbors on either side of me? Great, then we'll render neither of the outlines. So there's two steps. There's like picking the tile set that we want, and then picking where within the tile set that we want. And we're going to end up doing all of those calculations in C# now, instead of in GDScript, so that we can do it all, and then we can just send packed byte array information to the tile map layer that just says, here's your source ID, here's your atlas coords, and here's your alternative tile. Alternative tile lets us define, so alternative tile is useful because like you'll notice in this weirdly sparse tile set, I've defined the ceiling or floor, depending, and I've defined the X wall and the X floor wall, which don't worry about it, the difference between those two things. I haven't defined the Y, so I haven't defined the flip H of this. The flip H of this we're doing in the tile set. We're doing that, the flip H, with alternative tiles, which I honestly don't know if I want to keep doing that. Because that means the Y can only ever be a mirror of the X. And so if you wanted to render a panel that looked genuinely like if you had a control panel and you wanted the control panel to look the same, whether it was on the X wall or the Y wall, you couldn't do that. You could only have the mirror image. So we might change it so that we actually do draw the Y face instead of just generating the Y face as the mirror image of the X face. That would be more flexible in the long run from a creative standpoint. Ryson, why has it sailed? Oh, no, man, you could do it in C++. That's the thing is, I could not. I could not. I barely understand these two programming languages. These very lightweight. The function state as string is a static function, but it was called from an instance. Instead, it should be directly called from the type. Yeah, I mean, we could do that. That's definitely the correct way to use a static function. What if I made this not a static function? Oh, I can't because it calls another static function. These shouldn't be static functions, is the thing about it. What if I took that away? Will this work if I do that? I feel like there was a reason we... I was kind of abusing the notion of what is static to make this work. Let's see if it works this way. I feel like I'm going to get an error. Integer used when enum value is expected. Doortile.axis is doortile axis or flag.axis.x. Huh. Do I define this as... Huh. Okay. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I will worry about this though. Let's see if this works. Failed to build the project. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Forget about this. To do. Update the all tile systems if but there's been a block replacement. I feel like calling this the Hall system is stupid. There will probably be other things we want to do with the Hall besides just, but I guess that's amongst the things we'd want to do in the Hall system. We just might eventually want to do more. I'm like very much a thin system kind of person. I think a system should do very little. But it does get awkward sometimes. You try to do that too much. So I don't know how we're going to do that where we say, I guess it's like if the game.input.tools. Well, we need like a, if not an input, we need some kind of other flag. I mean, I could just make an entity that says, that's the simplest thing to do, I guess. I don't even know why I'm fucking around with queues. I think it's to avoid making entities that are just single frame state flags. I mean, I guess I could keep the entity around. I guess it doesn't really matter. I should probably do something other than put fucking queues on fucking static objects. But I don't know. I'm not going to win any architectural awards for this. Is all I'm saying. But that's fine because we're not trying to win an architectural award, a code software architecture award. We're trying to make a fucking game. Sorry for the language. I should just try to be not as sweary on here. A little too casually sweary. Get rid of this. All right, we're going to see if we can do this as not a static function. I think it's going to tell me game. Oh, no, it worked. Huh. Okay. Well, let's do that correctly then. Although, wait, the reason I had it like this as a static function is so that I can refer to it elsewhere without knowing about it. Right. Never mind. I remember why I did this. Why I'm abusing this system. We're abusing this because we're kind of using the singleton pattern with this game class. So what if I say this instead? What if I say game.statusString? Yeah, I can't do that. Oh no, it's a static function. I just made it static. Oh, I need to rebuild. I need to rebuild, then I can do it. Give me my hot reload. That's what I'm saying. The best code is the code that works and made you curse the least writing it. Your precious ears. I'm sorry. I don't know. I would not trust a code that I would not trust code that seemed inoffensive. I would be skeptical of the that the game that the code that is inoffensive actually accomplishes anything. All right, let's try to run this and see if this works or if it's upset with me about this. Are you not upset with me about this? Did this just work? All right, okay. Rock and roll. Should enqueue input be a static function too? Because it's only impacting a static object. Can we make this static? There is a call to get tree here, which cannot be static. So I guess the answer is no. What if I do this? If I bust this out here, then I say quit game. No, I can't do that, can I? What if I do this part in... What if I just do this part in Godot? What if instead of this, I just do that same stuff? I do the same stuff here, just on the GD side. You just gotta GD script it. I need to look up the quit stuff because I've got the quit stuff all written in C#. need to look at the example of quitting. Handling quit requests. Oh, is it still this? It's just notification WM close request? Oh my god. NanoDev rating in with a party of 43. Red alert. Raise the shields. Power the deflector dish, I guess. Prepare to repel borders. No, I'm just kidding. We're friendly. We're all friends here. Hey, Nano. How's it going? How was your stream? It's a big party you got going. Solar Labyrinth. Good to see ya. How's it going? Fool box. No raid message were given. Well, then I trust that I trust you each have a raid message in your heart of hearts somewhere. You just got to reach deep down to find it. Hello raiders, welcome in. Let me try to get rid of my compiler errors so we can look at some stuff. So we can potentially look at some stuff. Hello, hello. Let me read the chat. Howdy, howdy. Good, good. Many cool people hanging out. A bunch of awesome people sending their love your way. That's great. That's amazing. Did you tell me Happy New Year, Fullbox? I don't know. I think today is the last day to do it. I think after today, you're not allowed to tell anyone Happy New Year. It's been a week. So might as well do it. But yeah, that's what I've been doing if I haven't been able to tell if that's what I did or not. NanoDev, you added a basement to the temple today. The good progress. Awesome. That's great. Well, welcome, Raiders. We're working on an isometric 3D game that's kind of like FTL, faster than light. We're working on a lot of the tools to build the levels, which are kind of like stacked 3D ships. Like here's a little image of what like a bridge might look like. Sort of. It's more of a style guide than what I'd actually make the bridge. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of chairs here. It's a lot of upholstery to maintain, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're working on that stuff. We're working on we've kind of separated out our simulation layer into this separate world, and we're kind of we're trying to hook in some of the existing tools that we have back into that new world. So we've been working on getting our auto tiler up and running. We have an auto tiler, but we're working on a new version of it, a shiny new version of it. I can kind of show off the existing one, which I'm sure everyone's seen. This is the same demo I've been using for a long time. I hope the project doesn't crash. So if you kind of remember the image that I just showed you, it's kind of like, this is kind of like a 3D game. So we can start building out 3D levels, which are spaceships. Right now they're really simple. They're just cubic, but we're working on some new shapes, some like sloped shapes. So we could build a room here. Let's go down, build another room. But anyway, thank you for the raid, Nano. If you got a raid and run, for sure. I understand. Go take care of business here. Let's make one more level down here. So we're gonna make an even bigger room here like this. Like that. And then we'll go up. Let's rotate around. Let's close this off. So we can kind of start building compartmentalized ships. So you can see this is compartmentalized because it's changed color. This one's open air, so it hasn't yet. So we can make these closed compartments. It's a very gray box at the moment, but we can make these 3D constructions. Put some doors. Let's put some doors in here. So we'll make a little airlock, I think. Like that, maybe. Put the walls under it. put a door. Let's auto tile a 2x2 door here. Yeah, like that. So I'm working on tools that'll help me build the levels out like this. That's kind of what we've been working on. Happy New Year's. Yes, indeed. So we're in kind of an awkward in-between because we're running a lot of stuff through our C# simulation layer, but eventually we need to get it back into Godot so that we can like update nodes and stuff and tile maps. So we're kind of working on that step of doing the calculations in C# and then getting the information back, the results of the simulation back into Godot for the stuff that you need, which is really just the stuff that can be that's currently being rendered or might have UI access, UI elements. But yeah, this is my demo of the existing tool set. Very bare bones. Well, can't wait to see the stuff you've been working on, Nano. I haven't been able to pop in recently, but I hope I will soon. Don't worry about all these errors. Just hide those. You saw nothing. All right, so one thing I was currently doing is we're going to handle the quit request here in the input handler auto load. I was handling it in my game script, quote unquote, which is the doorway between the scene tree and the separate simulation layer, which doesn't have any nodes or resources backing it. It's just like a more quote unquote pure environment to do the simulation in. So what we need to do is we need to get this scene tree process. So if we receive a quit request, we want to propagate the notification, and then we want to quit out of the scene tree. I feel like we might even want to wait a frame. Do we propagate the quit notification, wait a frame, and then quit? We were kind of reading this about how to do it. So if we receive the quit thing, we could propagate this request. And then we could have, how long does this request stick around? Is it gone after one frame? Because I could easily have like a check of like this. Sending your own quit notification. While forcing the application to close can be done by calling scene tree quit. Doing so will not send the notification WM close request to the nodes in the scene tree. Quitting by calling scene tree quit will not allow custom actions to complete, such as saving, confirming the quit, or debugging, even if you try to delay the line that forces the quit. Instead, if you want to notify the nodes in the scene tree about the upcoming program termination, you should send the notification yourself. Yeah, but then what? Does the notification itself act as a quit? Sending this notification will inform all nodes about the program termination, but will not terminate the program itself, unlike in 3.x. In order to achieve the previous behavior, scene tree quit should be called after the notification. Okay. So I guess any node that I've set up that can process notifications will like, instantly run upon this, or am I waiting? Do I basically wait until their process function, then it runs? Basically, do I wait a frame before calling quit after sending the notification? I feel like the answer is yes. Bear like lion, give me the follow. Yes, thank you. I read you. How's your work stuff? Oh, I'd want to call defer to the scene tree quit. That's what you're thinking, Ryson? That might be the way. That might be the way. Call it, but call it deferred. We don't care about the mobile device's behavior of this. Bear, you're everywhere today. You have a new module to build, trying to get it done today. Nice. You like to listen while you work to co-work. Well, I'm glad you figured out your Twitch. Oh no, that was Ryson. Never mind. Uh, cool. All right, yeah, let's try that, Ryson. Let's just call deferred. So we'll basically do this here. So I'm in the input handler. I want to get the scene tree. Can I just do that? Do the root, and then I do the propagate notification. And then I send an int. I probably just plug in this constant, and that probably is sufficient. How do they spell the constant, this thing? Like this. And then we do, I guess we say variable tree is get tree. We say tree, scene tree dot root, and then we can say scene tree dot call deferred, and we got to pass the method as a string name, so we just say quit. We also want to send this information to. We still want a game.enqueue input. We want to attempt to enqueue the quit instructions, because there might be something that we want to do on the C# side if we quit. Actually, that's probably what we want to do, is we probably want to actually handle the quit on the C# side, do any auto-saving or whatever, then come back and quit the scene tree. So we probably don't want to do this here. But for now, since we're not doing anything after, let's just do this. Let's maybe do this in the opposite order, though. For now, this is fine, because that lets us turn this function into a static function, which is what we want. Actually not going to do this way anymore. Ryson, you know there's a way to call deferred, so it is called as a specific stage of the Godot lifecycle. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't had to do sophisticated game cleanup stuff in Godot. I've just done game jams, and game jams you like don't care. Generally. Okay, so now this is all static. We can reference our game singleton as a class instead of an instance, which we should be happy about. Crash. No crash. Everything happy? Well, the exit worked. Okay. All right. So here's something that I'm interested in. Tile map data. Tile map data is this very interesting beast. It is a packed byte array, but it's a packed byte array that's like sparse. It's like a sparse packed byte array, and I don't totally understand how it is achieved. So we might need to do some investigating before we're able to recreate that. Tile map data. Hydrate. Atagon. Happy New Year. Pre-investigative water. Yeah, thanks. I have been so thirsty. I was very tired this morning, so I had like a big triple shot coffee. Full box. Can it be used for chunks? The tile map data? That's kind of what we're using it for. What's cool about it is that it seems to not waste space on empty tiles. But when I looked at it, I couldn't figure out how it was able to do so. So we need to kind of figure that out before we can use it. I mean, we don't necessarily. We could just, because right now the tile map, I'm using the tile map, like I'm using set cell and stuff like that, I think. Is that true? I feel like I was just raw setting the tile map data, but I was doing it, I was only setting it directly in the case of undo redo and save load. So I wasn't actually writing the stuff myself. I was just, replacing one well formatted tile map data with another. Where was that stuff? Probably down here in utility. Yeah, we had our pack tile map data, which was cool because it was actually tile map data for like multiple tile maps. I was just packing all of it together into one thing because we'd do it by layer. So we'd store all the layers, we'd store the size of the layers, we'd just pack it all. We'd just, typical like binary data storage stuff. Like we'd keep track of the boundaries between them. And so I could easily just plug in tile map data, but I wasn't manually setting it, really. So we have to figure that out. So I might end up doing some research on that at some point. Is there a way to change it directly, or you need to go through a converter at some point? No, you can change it directly. Well, you can just set the tile map data. So you'd need to get all of it, change the parts that you wanted, and then give it back. But the thing is, if you're like inserting a tile somewhere in the middle, I need to figure out how one does that. Because this thing seemed to be really smart. Tile map data storage or I don't know, file structure. I should just save one of these. Godot. I want to know more about the very deep underlying aspect of tilemap data. Tilemap as resource. This might have something to do. It might have something in it. Godot 4 tilemap layers. Everything you need to know. That I'm very unlikely. How to save layout of a tile map. This might have something. We're just hungry for information right now. Ryson, you may have been hallucinating the different life cycle called deferreds. Not finding it. Yeah, no worries. Excuse me. Okay, they're mainly caring about something. I'm more interested in the way that this is. I'm more interested in the way that this information is laid out. Because it's just like, actually, the tile map data seems to be just, if I remember correctly, it was just 4 bytes, which is crazy. I should just save a tile map and try to remember what it looks like. Yeah, this isn't about. Oh, maybe there's a thing. They have making tile maps layers in the Godot editor. Do you have a making tile map layers from code? Oh, you do. But you're probably just using set cell. Probably not directly inserting things. Full box seems like it could be nice to generate an image with pixel color and then just create tile map data with that. That might be the way, because I feel like that's what the tile map layer is storing. That's a good idea, full box. We just make an image, and then we just try to convert it. I'm curious to see what we need to do. Theoretically, all we need to do is remove the black tiles or the black pixels, like the pixels with no data or whatever you want to call it. Sounds like a pretty good pipeline. For a game different than yours, though. No, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I think it'll work great. Whatever. Let's just save a tile. Let's just look at a tile map. I don't know what any of this stuff is. None of these things I looked at is what I want. This I'm gonna leave open because that seems interesting. But I'm just gonna save. I'm just gonna save some tile map data and take a look at it. We're just gonna do a looky loo. Do I have a tile map saved somewhere? Tile map data should just be a list of the tile IDs that are established in the tile set resource. That may be true. I don't know. When I was looking at it, when I was researching it, it's probably that because it's being stored sparsely. So it's not storing any tile cell that does not have data associated with it, which is not how I would do it, but I think it's cool. Bear Like Lion, you did some random tile generation as a prototype where you made a universe, played hex tiles on a tile map, then stars, then planets, then moons. Oh, that's cool. Full box. What's cool with an image is that you can add noise and shader stuff, and then you just convert it to a map. Yeah, that is a pretty good idea. That's a pretty good idea, full box. We might end up, depending, we might end up doing that. All right. So, do I have any tile maps that are saved? I don't really. But oh no, I do. I do have some. We have the grid lines and the block volumes and stuff. Well, I mean, we have scenes. Uh, line layer. So we need to find the line layer. Line layer. This is it. This is the tile data. That's how you pronounce it. You think that's how IRAD does it in his game? I might have to go bug IRAD. But yeah, this is the tile map data. Totally intelligible. Gridlines.tres will get you the tile IDs. True. Oh, Ryson, you're saying some stuff. As long as you don't have over 256 different tiles, the IDs should be within the value range of a byte. So packed byte array checks out. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Because I don't know I've never looked to see what the source ID limitation is on a tile set, but I would not be surprised if it's 256. I don't know how to convert this personally, but I've actually seen this saved in a different format. I've seen this saved in a byte format in a different way. I'm not actually familiar with doing it this way. The fact that it's mostly A's makes me question my theory, my sense that this was mostly sparse. I have a memory because what I was doing before is I was editing tile compositions and I was saving them to disk. Maybe I have some of that in my. All right, let's go look at the T-res, like Ryson was suggesting. Where is my T-res for this? Here it is. This is for the lines. Here's all the texture region stuff. Oh, it has an atlas it's saving somewhere. Cool box. I mean, will you ever have 256 types of tiles? It sounds like a crazy game. I mean, not necessarily, but like, I think it's 256 types of tiles per tile set. So that's not a real limitation because we're going to have more than one tile set. But yeah, I probably shouldn't. You missed what showed it as sparse. That's just memory. That's memory. Yeah, I guess let's just open this and try to open this in GDScript. Let me dip into my GitHub history here. Love these temp files that I'm creating here. What even is this? Some copy of the scene. I feel like I shouldn't save these, the temp files. I feel like I could just get rid of them most of the time. So what we're looking for, is there a way to search? Like deep search here? I'm looking for a specific folder. Well, I can just go back. I have an approximate idea of where to go back to. Around here. Oh, this will only have, so if I can identify when I did my big file cleanup, I can identify when I removed the copy of that. When did I do my big file cleanup? Was it one of these bagums? Ah, here it was. We're looking for the ship data folder. Okay, this has ECS, so this is too new. This is a bit too new. Oh, SLN, no, solution. This is solution data. It's before SLN. Bear-like line, you uploaded your tile map prototype if you want to check it out. Ooh, I very well might. Let's open that. Oh no, I got a 404 not found. I think that might be private. That might be set to private. Oh yeah, no rush, no worries. I am gonna find this. Was it this one? No. Maybe it was the next Bagum. There was a Bagum where I like cleaned up all my files and I deleted a ton of shit. Don't totally remember when I did that. It wasn't. It was before this. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna get to the bottom of this tile map data stuff because it's kind of gonna direct me to. I know I could just make one and save it, and honestly, that's probably what I'm gonna end up doing if I can't find it in the next few minutes. Is this it? Is this when I saved it? When I cleaned up a bunch of stuff? This kind of looks like I did a lot of file organization on this day. Looking for something like ship data. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. I can feel it here. Tilemap layer dot tilemap data is a packed byte array. Yeah. I'm trying to see what I saved when I was saving just the tilemap data, not like down to a scene or whatever. I'm just trying to look because I feel like it was in. I saw it in byte form, which maybe I just need to understand how to read that alphabetical byte array format. Does anyone know what that format is called? The one that we saw that was just like, what is this called? This is unusual to me. Base 64. Thanks, Adagon. This is probably the most efficient way to store it in text form then, yeah? That's pretty good. I'm a little concerned by the amount of empty space here, but... So what, each letter is like... Oh, let's just look at it. Let's understand base 64. Base 64 decode. Here we go. I don't understand the equal sign at the end. Oh, what do we want it back in? I don't know. Oh, that's totally unintelligible. Oh, I probably shouldn't do. I don't know what to decode it into. Who cares? I saw this in a different form. Yeah, I want to get it into byte form. Is what I want to get it into, which I thought UTF-8 would let me do. You can unencode it using the packed byte array object. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, let's do that probably. Probably shouldn't just keep looking for this thing that I know I have it here. Oh, found it. Starship.dat. Oh, I can't look at this because it's a silly format. File does not. Can I download this one specific file? Does this work? I just want this one file. You need to know the format to decode it, though, no? Think you can check it out from the previous commit? Oh, before I deleted it? Yeah, okay. Well, it won't... Do I need to grab this whole... Do I need to grab this whole commit? Should I just check out this commit and then go look for it? It's going to be in an old-ass version. It's It's gonna be in like, I don't know. Oh, it's actually only 4 months old. Maybe it's not in an old version. You're looking it up? Love it. Thank you, Bear Like Lion. Okay, so it's the 921 solo Bagum commit. Okay. So we know when we deleted it. We deleted it here. This is when I saved a tile map data as a binary file. And that's kind of why I want to look at this. I mean, it won't make sense, but I feel like I looked at it. Try get checkout commit ID file path. Oh, and I can specify a file path. All right, let's go to the, let's see what this does. Checking out a commit will create a detached head and you will no longer be on any branch. Yeah, I would like to specify the file path. Okay. EB91 EA7 / file path. Okay. You think you know you've done it before? Yeah. Oh, hit all of my windows. You're reading the docs, it seems to indicate it's compressed. Oh, that's probably part of the problem. As far as being able to read it, it probably is compressed. All right. You know, I think I have an easier idea of how to do this. Looking at how the saving function worked. Block history was a tile map snapshot, and I would just pack the tile map data and store it in a buffer. So this is how I would save it. You think there's a decompress method on the object? Okay. What if I do something insane? What if I go into here, go into here. So do I know the grid line object? Here's a simple, stupid way to do this maybe. Make a script file on ready. Let's just say print tile map data. What does this do? All right, so this is not sparse. I don't know why I thought this was sparse. This is very much the opposite of sparse. Well, that's good news. Give me the length of this. I think these are bytes. Okay, I guess we need to decode it, huh? So if we're working on a packed byte array, we decode and encode it. You're not sure exactly what my end goal is? I'm trying to understand the structure of the tile map data because we are going to be manually manipulating it. We are not going to be going through tile map layer dot whatever set cell. We're going to be directly writing to this. And we're not going to do it with packed byte array. We're just going to be using a byte array because we're going to do this on the C# side. So I need to be able to prepare the tile map data in its, final form. So I just need to understand how the data is laid out. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Size. So let's figure out the size of this first. Let's make an estimate of what this should be. And also, what is size? Is size going to be number of elements, or is size going to be like, well, I guess it's the same. I guess number of elements is kind of what we want to know. Number of elements in the array. So let's figure out how many bytes we've got. Yeah, we're trying to just understand the structure of this data. So what we're looking at is this little dude. So this little dude goes from 0 to 14. I think what it stores, it definitely stores source ID. I think it also stores atlas coord and alternative tile. I think that's all it stores. And that's 4 numbers, but they're ints. Probably. They might be bytes. Atlas coords might be ints because it's a vector 2. So let's come up with a hypothesis of how much space that we think this takes up. So if it's just a 15 by 15 grid, that's 225. So let's see what the size of this is. Packed byte array takes an array. Could you hook that up to the byte array you have on the C# side as a constructor? Yeah, well, so it's going to be a byte array of some kind on the C# side. And when it gets converted over, it's going to become a packed byte array. So that conversion will occur. Yeah. But the thing is, I don't think we're going to define it all at once, unless we do something like Foolbox's idea of like somehow creating it as an image and then converting it over somehow in the correct format. Oh, what a piece of shit. Packed byte array size callable. I want to know the actual. I'm an idiot. I'm the idiot. 674. That's an interesting number. 674 divided by 225. 2 and change. So that's not a clean division. So 674 is interesting. Let's interrogate that a little bit. Junk Tomato, thank you for the follow. I know we're doing some pretty stupid investigative stuff right now, which is probably the worst thing to do after I get rated, but we're really deep into figuring out how to write this this auto tiler tool under some very weird constraints. So I appreciate y'all hanging out on this strange little gumshoe journey that we're on. We do have ads in about 30 seconds. I promise I won't do anything interesting while you're gone. Full box, you like gaining knowledge? Yeah, me too. So it's interesting that this size is the way it is. Um, here's what I want to find out now. Let's identify how many. Let's identify how many of these tiles are set. Then we can test our theory. You know, there's probably some header information in a tile map data that I need to know about. Commodore 356. How does one know for certain that coding isn't? I think it isn't, but I want to be wrong with. That sentence is confusing. How does one know for certain that coding isn't blank? I think it isn't, but I want to be wrong with that. I deeply identified with having Oh, how does one know for certain that coding isn't for them? Okay, okay. I think it isn't for you, I presume. But you want to be wrong with that. You deeply identified with having valuable. Well, we're in ads. I'll pick that up in 3 minutes. I'm just going to read this rest of this. So, but you want to be wrong with that. You deeply identified with having valuable technological expertise, but the reality seems to conflict with the myths you believed about technology. Huh. You deeply identify with having valuable technological expertise. Yeah. Reality seems to conflict with the myths you believed about technology. Okay, so coding is not, what you thought it was in terms of the day-to-day or the structure of it or the procedure or whatever. The vibes are not what you thought. All right, I'm going to wait the 2 minutes until you're back from ads, and then we'll figure that out. Ryson, you thought the packed byte array was just from the tile IDs. Other stuff is loaded in besides the packed byte array in the scene. I don't think so. I think the packed byte array is the source ID, the atlas coords, and the alt tile. I think that's all it is, but we need to figure out how that could be the case. Okay, so if I erase this tile, what do I erase? Okay, nothing. If I erase that, there's something there. Okay, so that means that we have 15 plus 14 plus 13 plus 14, right? Or you could just say 14 on each side. 14 tiles on each side because of how we've done this. So 14 times 4 is 56. So what was that number? 674? What is 674 divided by 56? Is it a clean number? 12. What's the remainder of 674 divided by 56? Nothing? Oh, that wasn't remainder. Oh, that was remainder. Remainder is 12. Maybe that's a header. So 674. Is this percent or remainder? I'm in the programmer calculator. Modulo, whatever. 674 divided by 56. 12. Oh, maybe it divides evenly. Two, 4, 8. It's not exact. 12 bytes per tile doesn't make a ton of sense. Yeah, I need to understand more about tile map data, about the form. So we're back from ads. So Commodore, you were wondering about how you know for certain that coding isn't for you. Okay, good. You have a follow-up. Everything you liked about technology was the myths you believed. Kind of interested in what you think that what you feel like the You mean the myths of like being a programmer or like the activity, like what you see when people are like hacking the planet and stuff like that, or watching Silicon Valley or something? Or do you mean like maybe the more intellectual, way people paint programming? This wasn't even coding. This was during the days when computers were for rich people. Oh, okay, so this was a while ago. I liked the physical and directness of analog home entertainment appliances. You liked since you could, in theory, have a complete understanding of a cassette deck, stereo system, and VCR. You could make a better version. You were under the impression that would scale to more complicated devices. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess my point would be like, having valuable technological expertise doesn't just mean coding. Like, you could get into materials science. Like, material science is pretty interesting. You could get into carpentry, electronics, whatever. Like, there's so many ways to have expert to become a craftsperson. You could get into woodblock printing, like, because yeah, I think if programming itself doesn't speak to you, I think that's fine. I'm honestly a terrible programmer. I don't have a much of natural aptitude for programming. I've kind of slowly scraped together the basic competencies necessary to like kind of do it. So, hmm. Maybe we don't try writing this directly in raw form. Maybe we do try to use packed byte array as an intermediary, because I'm realizing some of these systems, if I'm doing them on the C# side, they are going to work on Godot collections. They're going to have to. I have to think more about the marshalling implications of that. Like if the pathfinding system is relying on tile map, like local to map or stuff like that, maybe it won't though. Maybe I can get that information from the input handler and then pass it back. Commodore, you like things that make pictures and noises? I am a bad developer, Fullbox, but I'm persistent. What I am is persistent. And I get a lot of credit by being persistent. You can make up for a lot by just keeping at it every day and not giving up. Even when you have days like today where you accomplish literally nothing and just mostly just think about data structures that you don't understand. Commodore, everything that makes electronic images and noises that one mere mortal human can have a complete understanding is obsolete. I guess. You thought coding would be the next best thing. I see. I see. Yeah, I think it's good to be. I think you can do a lot if you're just persistent, Fullbox. If you have nothing else going for you, I think you can still be. I think being persistent is like the secret sauce. Um, or maybe it's just table stakes. Maybe being persistent is just table stakes. Yeah, I'm not sure, Ryson. Yeah, I see it similar like Fullbox. Coding is a nice way to create things. I see them as little building blocks. I like assembling little building blocks that make other things. I like making things that make things. That's kind of what I like. I like seeing the automation of it. I like seeing the little procedures doing their thing. So maybe we're gonna listen to Ryson and try to do some packed byte array stuff and see if we can get some help. Because packed byte array includes a way to decode and encode things. The thing that I don't understand is I don't know what. You know what? We're just going to go into the source code. Like, what does tilemap layer do when we hit set cell? That's probably the thing we need to understand. I don't know why I didn't do this an hour ago. We're going to try to understand this. These are just the binds, right? I need the actual bread and butter here. Can I not see that in here? Is that hidden? It probably is. I probably can't see that from here. I have to do a different process for understanding that. What about tile map data? Do you have, is there docs in here about what this is? Table stakes? Yeah. Table stakes is like almost like an ante. It's like something that's required just to participate. Yeah, these are just property names. Damn this partial class. Let's go find tile map layer source code Godot. Let's go into the let's get in it. Tile map should be fine. Go look at set cell. See what's going on here. Tile map call for layer. Okay. Ugh, I can't read any of this. Tile map layer seems to maybe the better source. Let's see if we can figure something out here. Not looking at the rendering. Set cell. There we go. Here's something. If we can see what's being shoved into the data, we can start to get an idea. That at least is the starting point. Yeah, I think I'm right as far as we got the atlas coords, the source ID. Oh, we also have position coords. That's what I was missing. So, is that actually getting stored? I wonder. Yeah, Ryson, you're on it. I'm just bouncing around. So let's read this. Let's figure this out. Let's read this as best of our ability. So the source ID we want, the atlas coords, and the alternative tile. I believe this is all we really need. So the position here. So we've got a hash map. So we look for the data. So we've got a hash map that seems to have the cell data. So this supports my idea that this stuff is being stored sparsely, which was my instinct is telling me. Fuck is E? Oh, iterator E. Okay, so we're iterating. Cell data. Not coords. So we've got this cell data object, which we can look at. So we insert the data keyed to the position. Then we have this separate thing called a tile map cell. Commodore, thanks for trying to help. Sorry to bother. Think you're running your no worries, Commodore. Sorry if it looked like you were in kind of a conversation with Foolbox. So I kind of just let you both get on with that. But I feel the pain. I definitely don't have like a 100% positive relationship to programming. It's tough, especially when I'm doing something like this, like going through source code in a language I don't understand, trying to figure out what's being stored where. Okay, so they update the use direct. So what's the actual thing being stored? Is my question. Is the more determinant thing in the hash map with the cell data, or is the more determinant thing this tile map cell that's being set? That's what I want to know. Let's look for cell data. There we go. See, there's stuff in the H file, Ryson. Okay, cell data's got a lot going on. It's got the chords. And it has this tile map cell. So cell data is very weird in that it stores its own key and it stores the data here. So let's look for that first. So tile map cell. Do you have a definition of that somewhere? No, you do not. That's unfortunate. I want to see how the tile map data is. I want to understand about the tile map data. Is that anywhere here? Let's try to figure out the tile map data, where that's stored. It should be somewhere on here. Tile set atlas source, class tile map. I wonder the relationship between tile map layer is to tile map. I kind of want to look at tile map because I feel like that implementation is pretty straightforward. Although we should probably be looking at the layer. Set tile map data using compatibility format. Is there a set tile map data? There should be. Or no, it's tile map data. Ooh, if I can figure out this tile map data format, I might be in good shape. There's endianness, of course there is. Yeah, we might not be able to do this the way I want to do it. We might actually have to use the tile map to do this for us. Doing this in a raw, dirty kind of way maybe is bad. Maybe not the best way to do this. If it's platform dependent, that's going to be a huge problem. Yeah, headers have declarations, CPP files hold implementation, so you can see structs in the header. Yeah, that's what I thought. Shows how much I know about C++. Okay, so our desire is to write the tile map data directly and then push it back so that we're not doing all this marshalling of stuff. But it seems like that may not be possible. So maybe we should abandon that. In which case we need to think of a different format to get the information across. I mean, it would be cool if we could just plug that data in. You missed what caused me to flip to doing it all in the C# after all. Well, it's just kind of, it has to do with getting C# collections over to the Godot side. We can only do certain ones. So I can't send the block data over directly. I'd need to like break it up, send it over piece by piece, reassemble it on the Godot side, and then like figure it out from there, which is not the worst, but it's not great. So it would be easier if we could just do all of the calculations and make the tile map data on the C# side and then just push the byte array back that represents the tile map data and just push that one thing instead of trying to mess with like sending over collections of like custom structs and stuff that I have, which can't easily be sent over packed. They would need to be somehow variant compatible and sent over as arrays. It just seems gross, so this seemed like the more obvious thing to do, but now it's seeming like maybe the less obvious thing to do. If I could make sense of their process for storing it, I could reverse engineer it to some extent. I'm a little concerned about the platform-specific code stuff, but we don't have to actually worry about that right now. So let's look for all of the values that we have on here. I want to find my tile map data. So we have formats. I should look up what these formats mean. Right now they're just enums, so I don't actually understand what they mean. So format 1 is the default. So I don't understand. So the default is 3, which is interesting. I wonder what the format is for the layer. Does the layer even have this? Okay, the layer only has 2 formats. Okay, let's look at tilemap layer. Let's forget about tilemap because tilemap is not what we're going to be using. We're going to be using tilemap layer. So let's just try to understand tilemap layer. It's a little weird that a tilemap has a tile set atlas source and a tilemap that it's associated with. Makes me think that the tilemap layer is really just like some stuff on top of a tilemap. I guess the whole point of tilemap layer is each layer is its own tilemap, so it's probably a restricted case of the OG tilemap. Does C# not have its own access into a tilemap layer.tilemap data? You'd be more help here if you knew anything about the C# side of the Godot ecosystem. Yeah, same. No, the thing is, so the tilemap layer, I tried to look for the tilemap layer in here. It's not helpful. All this, I'm pretty sure all this defines is just bindings. I mean, maybe we just do it. The thing is, if we do this, We're calling into the Godot API, I think. And we will, to some extent, pay for that, you know? But that might just be what we have to do. So here's the raw tile map data. It's just a byte. It's just a byte array. I just need to understand. Well, let's look at some of these functions, I guess. They're just going to be bindings. They're not going to tell me fucking anything. So this is get with compatibility. This is some kind of crazy native call. Yeah, so these are API calls, which we shouldn't be doing. We should try to be avoiding it in this case. I'm looking at that. The single line class names at the top are just forward declarations. They are to avoid cyclic header inclusions. Cyclic linking. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Let's look at set. I could have sworn there was a set. Oh, it's from array. Okay, so we look here. Let's go down here. Yeah, I don't know how to make sense of this. Native calls dot Godot icall 1187. So this is what's happening under the hood here. We're doing some marshalling. We're converting system array to native packed byte array. Yeah, so we want to avoid some of this stuff if we can. That's why my dream is that we can just set the tile map data ourselves, pay the marshalling cost once to send it over, and that's it. I just need to know more about the format is the thing. That's the issue. And sorry that this is like the worst stream where we're not doing anything but investigating an incredibly obscure rabbit hole. This is just how I figure stuff out. I just bash my head against it until I eventually understand it. So there's a ton of stuff in this cell data, which is unfortunate. This isn't what's being saved to the tile map data, the tile data. Here we go. Runtime tile data cache. That's something. I don't know what that is. What if we do this a different way? Don't save. So what if we do this? What if we try to reverse engineer? Oh, not here. Make a new scene. Change the type. We need to plug in a tile set that we have that we like. I think the grid lines was a good example. It's going to be our tile layer detective. I don't really give a shit about whatever this is. We're just not gonna do anything in process. We're gonna just make subtle changes to this and then see what happens to the data and see if we can understand what's going on. So let's print a totally empty tile map data that has nothing in it, and let's see what we get. I have a bug somewhere. What was I even doing? Oh, I just typed that in so I could go look it up. Oops. What? This was working. Why wasn't this working? Dang it. Static, 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 static. This should all work. It's weird, but it should work. Why does this all of a sudden not work? What does status string do again? Does that look up? That should be fine. Okay, it works here. That's interesting. So it doesn't complain here, but if I try to launch that from this particular scene, oh, because there's no game. Oh. Okay, well, let's and then let's add that scene to here somewhere. Let's add it here, I guess. Instantiate the tile map layer detective. There it is. Now let's play. I get it, because it's static, but it is an instance. It's this disgusting singleton, and we didn't have the singleton, so it was not working. So, okay, so the tile map data is an empty array if there's nothing in it. Excellent. That is excellent. What if I specify like one thing? Let's put a tile with a source ID 0, atlas coord 0, and alternative 0. Let's paint that at coordinate 0, 0. And I can't see it. There we go. Why does this not work? Oh, because I have select, not pencil. All right, we've got one thing here. Now let's run it again. All right, we figured out a workflow. We're gonna slowly piece this together. All right, so here's interesting. Now we have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bytes, I presume. So we have 14 bytes. What if I add something? What if I add another one here? Do we get 28? Or is some of that header? We're going to figure this out. I'm getting my second wind. That's not where we want to be. All right, we got a 1 in here. So we should have our first 14 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. And then we have a 1. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Not 14. Okay. I have a theory. I have a theory of what's going to happen next. What if I add another one here? So in theory, we'll have our 14 zeros, a 1. Well, let's read that one more time. So we have, this should be 14 zeros. Then a 1. And then we should have 11. Then we should have 11 zeros, and we do. Okay. I think, now that I've done this, we're going to have 14 zeros, a 1, and then I think we're going to have 12 zeros, and then another 1. And Fernix7, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Appreciate that people are still here as I struggle. As I struggle to reverse engineer the structure of a tile map data. All right, so we said, even though we had 11 zeros this time after the 1, I think we're going to have 12 next time. And then I think we're going to have another 1. And then I think we're going to have 10 zeros. So let's remember that. What we're expecting is 14 zeros, a 1, 12 zeros, not 11, another 1, and then 10 zeros. Let's see if we get that. All right. So this should be 14 zeros again. Okay, it is. All good so far. How many zeros is this? It's 13 zeros, not even 12. Oh, interesting. That's 1 more than we thought, but do we still have 10 zeros after it? No, we have 9. Okay, so the 1 was shifted 1 to the right, further than I anticipated.
Most illogical.
Indeed. Indeed. Love the light bulb moments with the tinkering. Nice hit of dopamine when getting stumped on an issue for a while. You're telling me. The fact that this 1 was shifted 1 to the right was interesting because I was starting to get a theory about, clearly this is a dictionary of some kind, as far as the first couple of bits, or the first couple of bytes seem to be a coordinate. It seems to be vector coordinates. So my theory is that it would be 2 vector coordinates. It's weird that they're bytes and not full ints. Maybe they are. Maybe that's why we're seeing a shift that's unexpected. So I'm expecting the physical coordinates of the tile map, of the tile cell, the source ID, the atlas coords, and the alt tile. This is what I'm expecting. Altogether, that's 6 numbers. Violet Noon. What are you debugging here? Lost on what the zeros and ones mean. So we're looking at the tile map layer. The tile map layer saves out its data to a byte array. What we're trying to identify, because it seems to be the least documented thing in existence, is what is being stored there. Like, we know what information is necessary. What we don't understand is what exactly is being stored in the tile map data, because we want to be able to write this directly for obscure and confusing reasons that I swear make sense when you get into them. But thanks and welcome to the chat. How are you doing? All right, we're going to change the experiment. I'm going to put one cell here at 1, 1. And we're going to see how that works. Let's see what we get. I'm expecting something like some leading zeros and then a 1 and then another 1. And then some trailing zeros. I'm expecting 2 1s next to each other. Let's see if we do. If we don't get that, then I think the vector can be an int, or the vector is an int, like the vector coords for x and y. If there's any padding between the 2 1s, then that means we're dealing with something bigger than a byte. You see we're trying to figure out the structure of it. You're doing well. That's great to hear. Yeah, we were trying to like read the code and stuff to figure that out, and it got too crazy because it's like C++ like API like native calls and like whatever. It wasn't making sense. So we're doing it the second best way, which if you can't read the code, just do the thing. Okay, here we go. We have a leading 0. I wonder what's in that leading 0. Then we have another 0. Then we have a 1. Then we have another 0. And we have a 1. And then what? We should have 8 trailing zeros, right? Or 9. Is it still 14 numbers? Because that's what it should be. So we have 9 trailing zeros and 5 numbers ahead. So it's still 14 numbers. All right, what if... Let's put a negative number into this. What if I put in a negative number? Maybe those leading zeros before each vector is not additional room. Maybe it's a place for a sign. Let's do -1, -1, and see what we get. Maybe that's what's there. Maybe it's a sign. It's a sign of something. Oh, look at this. I did -1, -1. And now we've got 0, 0, 255, 255, 255, 255. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe they're using shorts for the vector coords somehow. I mean, I don't know why you would end up with this 255, 255, 255, 255 for just a -1, -1. Let's just keep moving things around and see if we can isolate it. Let's change this to -1, 0 and see if we just get the first 255s, the first 2 255s. Yep. Okay, so it looks like the first 2 bytes are some kind of header that we don't understand yet. The next 2 bytes seem to be the x coordinate, and then the 2 bytes after that seem to be the y coordinate. I don't know why it goes nanners and jumps all the way up to this number for representing -1. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens if we represent -2. What if we drag this over to -2 now? Now what do we get? Maybe these are ints somehow. Maybe those unaccounted for initial zeros are part of the x int. Okay, now it's 255 or 254, 255. So this is the limit of. So it's representing the maximum value. It's using the maximum value of a 16-bit number to represent -1. And then if I want to represent -2, it's going down. Let me see if that continues. That is curious. I'm going to have to do some research on what that way of storing numbers looks like. It doesn't matter to us per se because we aren't going to be using negative tile coordinates really because of the way we're structuring our data. We're only really going to be using positive numbers. So like I don't need to figure this out, but I'm kind of curious. So it looks like you can't have a tile. So it looks like they're using a 16-bit number to represent the x coordinate of a tile cell. Which is cool because that gives you that means you can go 30,000 grid spaces in either direction. Like there's no way for me to even try, like if I wanted to place, actually I can test this, can't I? Because we're doing this programmatically. So can I, so let's test this. I'm gonna need to go soon, but this is really cool. So let's do this. Let's say tile map. Let's say, what is this? What do we do here? It's something like update. Notify runtime tile data update. We want to call that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say set cell. We're going to make its coordinates. So what's 255 times 255? 65,025. We're going to do that. We're going to divide it by 2. So 32,512. Are you expecting a vector 2i? Yeah, you are. So we're going to give it 32,512. Because that's what we said, right? Yeah. That's about halfway through the maximum value of a 16-bit number here. We'll say 0 for the other one, or we'll say 1 for the other one. And then what else do you want? Source ID is going to be 0. Atlas coords will be vector 2i dot 0. Alternative tile will be 0. This might need to be delayed. Can I call defer to print? That won't work, will it? There's no way that's going to work. I guess we should hold off and see if that's even necessary. I'm worried that because tile map data is like it's setting the cell should be like itself a deferred action. We might need to just print in like the next process, or the run of the next process or something. Let's see what this does. Oh, I need to delete the thing that we have drawn here. Now let's try it again. Okay, so we're getting 127. Zero, 127. Maybe I'm still not understanding. What if we set this to negative 32? Well, let's make this 0 for one thing, so that let's isolate what we're doing. So let's say negative 32,512, because that's the interesting case here to me. So that's 129. So negative 32,512 it was 127. This is 129. So what if we keep going a little bit? Deeply confusing stuff. You're telling me, Violet. There's something interesting happening. Okay, so this was 255, 128. Oh. Maybe this is an int. Maybe this is an int. And I'm just dumb. If that was an int, and this is an int, and this is a byte, there's not enough there's not enough room here for these all to be ints. What if I say int? What if I give this the max value of an int? We're just trying to break the system and try to understand. Int max value. What's the signed int max value? Here it is. Be bold. If you're going to try to break something, be bold. That's what I'm saying. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can define a position that far away. Can you iterate a lot of coordinates, see if a pattern shows up? Maybe. Okay, this is 255, 255 again. So this is curious. What if we do the negative? That's the same value we got when we plugged in -1, is what's confusing me. I need to understand something. So that's just 1. Yeah, there's some weird, maybe, you know what maybe we need to do is we need to do a decode. Can I do tilemapdata.decode? Decode an S. Godot uses 64-bit integers, huh? Well, I just don't know what. I don't exactly know what to decode here. Maybe I just need to do some research. I'm sure somewhere someone has written down the file structure of tilemap data. Because right now we're getting the same number from this, from the int, the maximum int value for assigned int, 255, 255. That's the same thing we get when I do -1, isn't it? Yeah, it's exactly the same I get from -1, -1. So that's interesting. I think I have this gut feeling like they're using 16-bit numbers for the X and Y coordinates based on this. Like if I plug in a 1, 1, I get 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. I guess what we should start doing, or maybe what we should do next time, is we should, or I can do it in my own time as well. I need to map out where the other fields are. I need to map out, because we can eventually figure out how this positional coordinate is set, but we also need to figure out where's the source ID, where are the atlas coords, where's the alt tile, and how big can they be. So I need to map this out, but I think this is going to be doable. I'm a little scared about some of the stuff we saw. Some of the stuff we saw on the when I was looking at the source code about things like endianness. Like I'm a little concerned about, maybe worried about some of that if we want this, to be multi-platform or something. But we can cross that. We can burn that bridge when we get there. I'm just very curious about this stuff. So where are you storing your tile map data? You're in here somewhere. The tile data is the data for a single cell, I think. We want tile map data. Is this available anywhere? So we have a set and we have a get. And that's it. So wherever this data is set, I don't know where it's being stored, but that's okay. I think we can figure this out. This is the H file as well. So if we end up looking here, these just gives us the accessors. Back, what did I miss? We're having some success by writing to a blank tile map and inspecting the data. We're having some success identifying where the fields are. So I need to run because I need to get back to my day job here. We've been live for 3 hours, which is kind of my limit. So the tile map data is just a property and it's getter, and this is how you set or get it. So I guess I really need to understand these functions if I want to understand what's happening. That's just it. That's the beginning and end of it. I guess this is it. This is the information here. Ah, here it is. I was right. It's being encoded as a uint. Oh, a uint. Okay, so it's being encoded as an unsigned integer 16. Interesting. That's probably why we're getting strange behavior from the negative numbers. How are they getting away with storing it as an unsigned integer? I don't really care because we're not going to use unsigned, we're not going to use negative numbers in a practical sense. Okay, so we're just storing position X, position Y, source ID, atlas coord X, atlas coord Y, alternative tile. That's it. I don't know why there's an empty byte at the start. Maybe it's some format information. Maybe it's an enum for the format. Sorry, someone started calling me. Okay. This is good. This is good. I should have probably just kept reading this a little more. But I think I needed to mess around with it for a minute to understand what was happening. Okay, no, so the first number is an enum of the tile data format. So I need to understand what the possible formats are. I need to understand what that means. But if this is the case, this is easy. There's 12 bytes per cell. It is being stored sparsely because it's being stored by its coordinates, which is great. I maybe need to understand this decode encode because I'm going to need to do this part manually, or not manually, but you know, have a function that to understand the logic of the encoding decoding, which is not hard, especially in this case. Okay, well, you know, it was a real this is programming. I wish Commodore was still here because this is programming. You bash your head against the wall for like 2 hours, and then you figure it out. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna answer this question, then I'm gonna wrap it up. Violet Noon asks, just out of curiosity, how did you get here? What is the reason this needs to be done? So, the reason this needs to be done is because while this game is being made in Godot, the simulation layer, like all the heavy data crunching, snoozing the ads. Yeah, this is programming, Ryson. You got it. So we have a scene tree world, which is like the game board with all of the renderable things that can be rendered in a moment. The UI, obviously. So we have the responsibilities of UI and rendering are handled by the Godot scene tree. But we have this other world that you can get to through the root node called the game node. This game node is a window. I'm learning it's very much not a door. It's a window into a C# simulation layer that is powered by like an entity component system. So it can handle a very heavy amount of simulation of very lightweight objects. So like we're making an FTL-like, right? So we're simulating, you know, the atmosphere in a room, all the behavior of all these different like crew members, like power distributions across the ship. We're simulating all this stuff in the entity component system world. Eventually, stuff needs to get back to the Godot world. One of the things that needs to get back to the Godot world is the tile map data information. So like, how has our tile map changed over time? Whether you're in the editor mode or you're in the play mode, like the auto tiler might adjust something because like a wall exploded or like something took damage or whatever. Something structural took damage. So you update the tile map. Well, because of the marshalling costs associated with sending data back and forth between the Godot side of things and the C# side of things, you really want to do it as little as possible. So our idea is that the as little as possible is if we set up all the tile map data in the C# side, which is where all the information is that we need to use. The easiest thing to do is to figure all of that out here and then just shove back a packed byte array, which is just the tile map data, which is just the information that the tile map layer needs to render the tile map stuff. That's the easiest way to do this. So that's kind of why we ended up with this world of, can we set the tile map data manually ourselves? The answer is yes. We just needed to understand the format a little bit better. And we got there after 2.5 hours. So, and I need to think about how I'm going to do the encoding, decoding, but I think that's pretty great. I think that's going to be okay. So now we're going to be able to have a tile system, an auto tile system here that figures out how the tile map data should look, and then we can just shove it back through directly into the tile map layer. And then we're sending the least amount of information across, and we're only doing it once. Well, per, frame or whatever. Neat. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking about it, because I'd kind of, hadn't explained what I was doing for a while. But that's awesome. I really appreciate everyone hanging out here. Everyone who's still here from NanoDev, thank you for sticking it out with me. Anyone who's wandered in since then, appreciate you coming by. I'm Dave. I'm working on an FTL-like in Godot. Still early days. We're working mainly on our tool sets that are going to allow us to build out these tile maps, because we actually are rendering this whole, well, not this scene, but we're rendering our scenes using an isometric tile map setup that uses a custom auto tiler I made. That's kind of complicated. And yeah, that's why we're kind of bending over backwards to do it this way, so that we can keep doing things this way. And we'll be back tomorrow. We stream Tuesdays to Saturdays around this time, approximately. I usually would like to start earlier and end earlier than this, but, whatever works. We're going to find somebody to raid, because I have a decent number of people watching today for once, which is kind of incredible. Who on the stream team is streaming? It can't be nobody. Have a good one. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for hanging out. All right, we got some people. We got Fine is Fine. Cedo-Lix is streaming. Creative Waste. I'm not familiar with this streamer. We've also got To Danger. Not familiar with this streamer either. They're doing art. Creative Waste is playing Arma Reforged. Probably not that. Fine is Fine is doing game dev. Oh, they're doing some pixel art stuff. Ooh, I'm kind of, or are they? Are they doing 3D? I'm kind of confused by their stuff. Bye. Thanks for hanging out. Oh shoot, did I miss the snooze? No, I've got one more snooze. I want to raid out here. We're probably going to go raid Cedo. Cedo's doing .9, .net like us. I think we're going to go check out Cedo-Lix. Assuming I can spell their name. I hope y'all join in me. Cedo's pretty great. Cedo does a lot of different work. Overlays, games. Their stuff is pretty snazzy. I'm not sure what they're working on right now, but they're doing it in .NET, so that works for us. I'm going to turn on the music and play myself out here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.